7 years. That's how long I had stayed. 7 years of arriving before sunrise, leaving long after the cleaning crew, answering calls on weekends, saving deals no one else could salvage, and quietly becoming the person clients asked for by name. I never demanded credit. I never played office politics. I believed results spoke louder than noise. Maybe that was my first mistake. The company wasn't small anymore. When I joined, we were cramped into a shared office with flickering lights and mismatched chairs. By year 7, we had 3 floors, international clients, and contracts that could make or break entire quarters. And somehow, without a fancy title, without a corner office, I was at the center of it all. I trained new hires. I fixed mistakes senior managers pretended not to see. When clients threatened to walk, I was the one sent in to calm them down, restructure the deal, and keep the revenue alive. My manager knew this. Everyone did. So when rumors started about a new director role opening up, people began stopping by my desk with half smiles and knowing looks. "Looks like it's finally happening for you," one colleague whispered near the coffee machine. Another joked, "Don't forget us when you move upstairs." I didn't say much. I didn't want to jinx it. But for the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine it: recognition, authority, a seat at the table where decisions were actually made. The announcement came on a Monday morning. Mandatory meeting. Conference room up, senior leadership present. HR smiling too much. I walked in calm, confident, carrying a notebook I didn't even need. My manager stood at the front, hands clasped, eyes scanning the room. He cleared his throat and started talking about growth, loyalty, and the future of leadership. My heart beat faster with every word. Then he said her name. His daughter. Fresh out of college. 0 industry experience. 6 months as an intern in a different department. She stood up, blushing, eyes wide, clearly overwhelmed by the applause he had started himself. People clapped because that's what you do when the boss is watching. Some clapped harder than others. A few didn't clap at all. I felt something cold move through my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just a sharp, quiet realization. He looked straight at me after the applause died down, waiting for my reaction. I smiled. I nodded. I clapped too. That seemed to relax him. After the meeting, he caught me in the hallway. "I hope you understand," he said, lowering his voice like this was a private favor. This was a strategic decision. She brings fresh perspective. I asked him one question. Calmly. Respectfully. Was my performance ever the issue? He paused, then laughed. Of course not. You're invaluable where you are. Invaluable. Exactly where I was. Exactly where I would stay. That night, I went home and didn't tell anyone. Not my friends. Not my family. I opened my laptop and reviewed every account I personally handled. Every client who had my direct number. Every system only I knew how to navigate without manuals. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I just observed. 2 days later, I submitted my resignation. No speech. No threats. No counteroffers demanded. Just a clean notice. My manager laughed. He actually laughed. "You'll be back," he said, leaning back in his chair. "People always realize what they're worth out there." I smiled again. The same smile I'd perfected over 7 years. Polite. Professional. Empty. I walked out without another word. What he didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was how deeply the company's biggest clients trusted me, not the logo on the building. And how quietly I had already prepared for what came next. My last day arrived faster than anyone expected. HR sent a polite email about knowledge transfer, but no one really knew what that meant in practice. I was asked to document processes, share access, and be available after leaving if questions came up. I agreed to everything with a calm nod. Inside, I was already gone. The first crack appeared before I even cleared my desk. One of our oldest clients, an international account responsible for nearly 12% of annual revenue, called my personal phone. Not the office line. Not support. Me. "Are you still handling our contract?" the client asked carefully. I told them the truth. That I was leaving. That the company would assign someone new. There was a pause. A long one. Then the client said something I will never forget. "If you're not there, we need to reconsider." I didn't encourage them. I didn't manipulate anything. I simply said, "Do what's best for your business." By noon, my manager was pacing. By 3 o'clock, he wasn't smiling anymore. Emails started flying. Emergency meetings were called. My calendar, already cleared, filled up with invites I declined politely. When I walked past the conference room, I could see his daughter sitting there, wide-eyed, flipping through reports she clearly didn't understand, while senior staff whispered urgently. That evening, as I packed the last box from my desk, my manager finally cornered me. "This is bad timing," he said, irritation bleeding through the forced calm. "Clients are unsettled." "I gave proper notice," I replied. "And I followed every process." "You could help smooth this over," he pressed. "Just reassure them. For the transition." I looked at him and realized something important. For 7 years, I had been smoothing things over. Quietly absorbing chaos so others could take credit for calm waters. "I already did," I said. "By doing my job. For years." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next week was when reality hit the company hard. Another client paused a renewal. Then another. Then a third requested a full contract review due to leadership changes. My inbox, now personal, not corporate, filled with messages from people I'd worked with closely. Some were supportive, some were confused. A few were scared. And then came the call that changed everything. A competitor reached out. Not through HR. Not through LinkedIn spam. Directly. They didn't offer a title first. They didn't sell dreams. They showed numbers. Growth plans. Authority. Trust. They offered me a leadership role tailored around my strengths. Full autonomy. A team I could build myself. And something my old manager had never given me, respect. I accepted. 2 weeks after I started my new role, the real damage surfaced at my old company. Systems stalled because no one knew why certain safeguards existed. A major client escalated an issue straight to legal. Internal blame started spreading like fire. Meetings turned ugly. And slowly, painfully, my absence became impossible to ignore. That's when my former manager called. Not laughed this time. Not confident. Just strained. "We need to talk," he said. I agreed to meet him. Neutral location. Coffee shop. Middle of the afternoon. When he sat down across from me, he looked older. Tired. Defensive. "I didn't realize how much you handled," he admitted quietly. I didn't respond. "My daughter is overwhelmed," he continued. This role might have been too much, too soon. Still, I said nothing. Then he asked the question he should have asked years ago. "What would it take to bring you back?" I took a slow sip of my coffee and finally spoke. "I already left," I said. "The cost isn't negotiable anymore." His face fell. Because in that moment, he finally understood. This wasn't about a promotion. This was about consequences. I didn't celebrate after that meeting. I didn't brag. I didn't post anything online. I simply went back to work, my new work, where for the first time, my decisions didn't need permission, and my ideas weren't filtered through someone else's ego. Meanwhile, my old company began to unravel in ways no emergency meeting could fix. The first public sign was subtle, a delayed quarterly report. Analysts noticed. Investors asked questions. Internally, panic crept in quietly, the way it always does, through whispers, not announcements. My former manager's daughter lasted 6 weeks. 6. She wasn't fired. She resigned. Officially, it was for personal reasons. Unofficially, she couldn't keep up. She had inherited a role built on years of invisible labor she never knew existed. And that's when the real damage became clear. The systems I had designed weren't just processes. They were bridges between departments, safeguards against costly mistakes, relationships built on trust with clients who didn't tolerate incompetence. Without me, those bridges collapsed. One client terminated completely. Another moved half their contract to my new company, because I was there. A third demanded compensation for errors that never would have happened before. Then came the board review. I didn't attend, but I heard everything later. My former manager was questioned hard. Why had he replaced proven leadership with untested loyalty? Why were senior engineers burning out? Why had 3 competitors suddenly gained ground in markets they once dominated? For the first time, he had no one to blame. And then, unexpectedly, he showed up again, this time at my new office. Not announced. Not invited. Security stopped him at the front desk. When I was told who it was, I allowed the meeting. He stood in my office, looking around at the team I had built, the confidence in the room, the quiet efficiency. This wasn't chaos held together by one exhausted person. This was structure. I made a mistake, he said plainly. I nodded. Not in agreement. Just acknowledgement. I underestimated you, he continued. I thought you'd struggle. That you'd come back. That was the moment everything shifted for him. Because I smiled, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but clarity. I didn't leave to prove you wrong, I said. I left because staying was costing me more than money. He asked if there was any chance, consulting, part-time, advisory. I declined. Politely. Firmly. Some lessons only land when there's no undo button. After he left, I sat with my team. We reviewed our growth. Our pipeline. Our next expansion. We talked about building something sustainable, where effort is visible, where talent isn't threatened by nepotism, where leadership is earned. Months later, the industry article came out. It didn't mention my name directly. But everyone knew. It talked about a company that collapsed after sidelining its strongest operator. About how invisible competence is often mistaken for replaceability. About how arrogance is expensive. My former manager stepped down before the end of the year. As for me, I didn't win by humiliating anyone. I didn't win by shouting. I didn't win by revenge. I won by leaving. By choosing growth over comfort. Respect over familiarity. And silence over arguments. Because sometimes the most powerful response isn't proving your worth. It's letting people finally feel the cost of ignoring it.